Hey all, we are, can you believe it, in week 6 and almost wrapping up the course. It's been a long and short 6 weeks, I'm sure you would agree. Just some housekeeping things before I talk about what's going on with today's or this week's content. First, there still seems to be some confusion with APA and requirements for citing sources. If you even look inside the classroom and look at the instructor guidance, you'll notice at the very top there are some different decorative banners and things, and it says all banner images are taken from the particular website. So even when you're including images in your presentation, you need to give credit unless you designed those images or graphics or whatever yourself. So be sure that you're including those. And as in the case in the instructor guidance, it says office.microsoft.com and so on, and has where the link is. So make sure you're doing that. More importantly, make sure you are giving credit to people whose work you are using. There was a phrase that showed up in multiple people's papers that talked about not just being hands-on, being minds-on. And again, that phrase was taken from somewhere. If it's showing up across the board, and if you're paraphrasing it because it came from the textbooks or a common resource, you need to do that. Unless you came up with that phrase, you need to make sure you're citing it. And it's required. This is a very first, for many of you, your first course in a master's program. It won't go away. It's something that you have to do, and that's part of being ethical as an educator as well as in the world of academia. So that aside, next thing in terms of housekeeping, this is our last week of the course. On Monday at midnight, when the course ends, no work will be accepted after that point. The only exception is if you would have some type of accommodations, which you have already presented me with your letter, and if it has a timeline involved with that, that's the only exception. And if that applies to you, you already know about that. For everyone else, midnight, that's it. You need to make sure you have all of your work in. In the other weeks, if you've turned something in, you had up to 3 days and you still would get some credit. That is not the case for the last week. So make sure you are hearing that very clearly, because that final project is a big part of your grade and you don't want to have an oops, it didn't upload or whatever. So once you upload your assignment, close out, go about your business for a little bit, and then check again before you go to bed that Monday at midnight. Make sure that it has in fact uploaded and that your assignment is there, so that way there's no chance of you not having your work in there, especially if you've put the work in. Now there is, again, if you look at the instructor guidance provided by the university, that there is a Master of Arts in Education student club. This is a great place for you to network, and there's information about joining that and participating in that. So it's something that would be really helpful, because again, to have someone who is going through the process with you is very helpful. I remember doing my doctoral program, having other people in a similar situation. They understood and could guide me, provide support, or some tough love as needed. So it's a great tool for you to use. Now, looking at this week's biggest focus is about professional learning communities. And what's really interesting is that I was thinking about this and thinking about how I wanted to talk about it, because there's so many different ways that I could approach it. And ironically enough, at school today, well, every Tuesday, and today happens to be Tuesday, every Tuesday we have collaboration time at my school. And what this involves is during planning, so let's say 6th grade is in planning. All of the 6th grade teachers come up to our meeting room and they sit grouped by subject area. So math teachers sit together, science, language arts, we also have foreign language, and social studies. And in those groups includes ELL, it includes special ed, it includes anyone who teaches those subjects or teaches at grade level is in this meeting. And this is where we discuss common assessments, teaching strategies, looking at the standards, and so on. So that's one level of professional learning community. Obviously, your colleagues who teach the same thing. Then also looking at a bigger picture in that room, you also have the community of your grade level. So beyond your subject area, you also have your grade level. Because if we are looking at a written assessment or looking at how we can build literacy skills as a math department, to walk across the room and have a conversation with the language arts teachers to see how we can support that or what they can do to help guide us in that process if we don't know how best to do that through our subject. So that's another area. You also have your learning community, that's your team of teachers. In middle school, we have a teaching team, and so that's unique to middle school, although some elementary and some high school do pull in that model to some degree depending on how it's arranged. But you have people who work with the same students as you, who deal with the same parents as you, who deal with the same resources and challenges and things. So it's someone who or group that can also help you get better on many other levels as well, or where you can share and collaborate. Then today, what actually made me really think about what was so useful, that as I've said before, I've been in education 18 years. I've been in this building 18 years. I've had a variety of roles. And I'm in Gwinnett County, which is the largest in Georgia. And it's one of the top 10 in the nation in terms of number of students. And so, I mean, we're talking a good 175,000 students. So it's a huge district. And we were fortunate enough to have members of our assessment and accountability office come in and work with us today, which is our district is another professional learning community that we can tap into, and is often overlooked. Sometimes your district seems like it's the enemy, and but it's important to look at some details. So we sent them assessments at the beginning of the year, some of our common assessments, for them to go through and take a look. Are we really meeting our level of rigor, our DOK levels? Are we really addressing the standards? Have we unpacked them effectively? Or are our teaching and instructional models supporting what's being assessed? What questions do we have? And so they went through those, came back and met with the leadership team, which is the administrators and myself as the IB coordinator, and went through each of them. And then we were lucky enough to have them come back today, and what they did was met with, so the person who's in charge of social studies assessment sat with the social studies teachers and so on, and went through and explained, really looking at unpacking the standards again, looking at, are we really meeting this need? Is this question worth asking? Is this something that we want to, as they use the quote, prime real estate? And when you have a test, you can't have unlimited items, and for any type of assessment, it has to be really focused, and you have to use that time and space well. And so there were some really good things that came out of it. And again, I've been doing assessments for forever. I've been teaching all the different topics. I teach graduate and undergraduate courses related to assessments, and still having someone come in who has a different vantage point of assessments brought in all of this useful knowledge. So again, your district level is another learning community, and it's worth a phone call. And as teacher leaders, that's where you make a call to the district and you go, hey, is there someone who could come out and help us with? And you'd be surprised how many resources become available to you. There were several different templates and different things that we had no idea existed that make our job so much easier. So that's another learning community. Then you have, beyond that, you have things like the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics, through and related to each of the subjects. And through those, you can learn about activities, instructional methods, questions other people have. Again, that network of people who share their wisdom or share their struggles and need your help and your expertise. And there's that affirmation piece of, okay, I'm not the only one who feels this way, or hey, I am doing it right. And so it's super important for morale, which is a huge part of the professional learning community. One of the biggest pieces, beyond all of those things that, and obviously in all of the things I mentioned, there are things that we as educators and adults can take away. We have to work with difficult people. We have to practice our collaboration skills, our communication skills, all of those things, but also learning about our subject, the content, and so on. But something that I found very interesting is hearing the kids talk about it, because they see us having people come in to help us. They see us asking for help when we need it. They see us working together to solve a problem or to help them be better. And it's interesting. Each collaboration meeting, I get a computer to put up to project some information. And on several occasions, I've asked just a different student, hey, will you run this up to the plush room, which is our professional learning room. So that's why it's the plush room. But anyway, and they were like, is that the one where all the teachers go and work together? And yeah, and off they went. And they are seeing, we are modeling what they are expected to do. So they see that we're working together. It also dispels that, oh, such and such's team is better, or we're the dumb team, or, we're the smart team. So it removes all of that because they know we're all working together. So the effects of what you do in your building and how you aspire to learn. That's why it's important for students to know you are working on an advanced degree, so they know you are still learning, for them to see the degrees you already have or the extra training you already have. It's really amazing at how that gives credibility to what you're discussing. And it doesn't have to be specific to your content area. It's about it being specific to the conversation at hand. So it could be talking about organization, or someone complaining about homework. And you say, yes, I understand. This is what I have to do also. I understand where you're coming from, but that's how important it is. So whenever I was working on whatever degree, to where I would tell my students, hey, look, do you really think with as busy as I am, I'm going to give you an assignment that's not important? Because if you have to do it, I have to grade it. And that means I have to grade it for every single one of my students. So think of how much time. So if it's not important, why would I do that to myself? And they have that aha moment, like, okay, well, wait, maybe this is meaningful because I can put it into context of I'm doing homework too. And so I don't want to do anything that's meaningless or that's just busy work. I want something that's going to help me be better. And so all of those things, being a continual lifelong learner, contributes on so many different levels. With that being said, continue working on what you're doing. It's very hard as an adult. You have life and it gets in the way. And I definitely understand that. And as you move forward in your program, make sure you take advantage of the things. Again, another learning community you have through Ashford with the Writing Center. There are tutorial tutors available. You have different tutorials for different things, for the Research Center and so on, because these are all things that you'll need as you keep progressing. And really dig deep. A master's program is about you really, really understanding the why and how and all of those things that go into doing what we do and in the best interest of kids. And I wish you all the best of luck. Hopefully I'll see you maybe in another course. If not, you have my email address if you have a question, or what was that resource you used, or do you know of a resource? I'm more than happy to help. So please take advantage. Again, I will be a learning community of one, and so I'm happy to share. And if you find something that you think might be beneficial for other students in this course, please send those to me. I absolutely make a list and I start building them in as each time that I teach a course. So be a professional learning community for me as well. And again, great working with all of you, and I hope to hear about how many of you are on track and graduating and all of that fun stuff, and see you in the education world. Thanks, and enjoy the end of this course.